I found letters from my wife to another man hidden in a dressing table, and now I don't know whether to confront her or summon her to court. I never thought I'd be here, typing something like this. I used to scroll through the sub and feel this weird mix of sympathy and relief, thinking, man, I'm glad I don't have those problems. Well, I guess karma has a messed up sense of humor because now I'm that guy. So here's the deal. I've been married to my wife, Elena, for 11 years. From the outside, picture perfect. We're that couple people envy at dinner parties. We host friends, go on weekend getaways, post those obnoxiously happy vacation photos. All smiles and sunsets. We've got 2 kids, 7 and 4. A cozy house in the suburbs, joint savings, the whole deal. Hell, we even go to couples yoga on Saturdays. But for the past year or so, something's felt off. Not loud, screaming, in your face wrong. More like this subtle shift in the air. Like when you're waiting for a storm that hasn't hit yet. She started getting more secretive with her phone. I'd walk into the room and she'd tilt the screen away, or switch apps like a reflex. When I joked about it, she laughed it off and said I was being paranoid. She started staying late at work more often too. Elena works in publishing, deadlines are real, I get that. But 3 nights a week? Always after dinner, always the same excuse? It was starting to sound like a broken record. And here's the thing. She stopped touching me. No hand on my back when she passed me in the kitchen. No lingering looks. Just cold efficiency. We functioned like roommates with a shared calendar. I should have pushed harder. I should have asked more questions. But part of me didn't want to know. Because once you know, there's no going back, right? Then last Friday happened. It was one of those rare quiet mornings where both kids were at a sleepover with my sister. I figured I'd surprise Elena, clean up our bedroom, make her breakfast in bed, maybe reignite something. While I was vacuuming near her vanity, I knocked over her old dressing table. The drawer jammed, and when I yanked it open to fix it, a manila envelope slid out from behind the drawer's false bottom. I swear my heart knew before my brain did. My hands were shaking before I even touched it. Inside were letters. Real, physical handwritten letters. Like we were back in the 1940s. At least 20 of them. Folded neatly, some with lipstick smudges. All addressed to someone named James. I'll never forget the first line I read. It was written on thick cream paper in her looping handwriting, and it said, "Last night was dangerous. You kissed me like I was yours, and for a moment, I forgot I wasn't." My stomach dropped. I read 5 letters before I had to stop. Each one was worse than the last. They were emotional. Elena wrote about how she felt alive again, how he made her feel seen, how she hated sneaking around but couldn't stop. One letter said she saw our daughter's smile in his eyes and wondered what might have been if they'd met before all this. There were mentions of meetups at the cabin, plans for the future, discussions about me. How I didn't deserve the full version of her anymore. I sat on the edge of our bed with the envelope in my lap, hearing my blood rush in my ears, just whispering what, over and over like it might make the scene make sense. I didn't cry. Not then. I just felt this ice-cold wall go up around me. Part of me shattered, but I didn't even have time to feel it all. And now I'm here. I haven't confronted her yet. She was out running errands when I found the letters. I put them back exactly where I found them. Haven't moved them since. For the past 4 days, I've been acting normal, kissing her on the forehead goodnight, helping with homework, laughing at her jokes like a goddamn clown. Because I need time. I need to think. Do I talk to her? Do I get a lawyer first? Do I make copies of the letters? Should I tell my sister? My therapist? Hell, should I even stay for the kids? I can't sleep. Food tastes like ash. Every time she touches me, I flinch, and she notices. I know she does, but she doesn't know what I know. Not yet. So I did what I thought was the smart thing. I started documenting everything. Took photos of the letters, front and back. Not just the text, but the dates, the stains, the doodles in the margins. One had a pressed flower taped inside it. Another had a damn hotel receipt folded into it like some kind of twisted trophy. I emailed copies to myself from a burner account I created just for this. I even found a receipt dated 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago when she told me she was working late to prep a quarterly report. Meanwhile, she was apparently in a boutique hotel in the next city over, drinking red wine and talking about how she wished she could stop loving him. That line stuck with me. I hate that I still love you. I hate that I can't unlove you. But I hate him more for making me forget how to. Him was me. That one hit different. You ever read words written by the person you trust the most and feel like they were describing a stranger? Like they were living another life, a life that you were completely excluded from? That's what it felt like. For a full 48 hours, I couldn't even look her in the eye. Every time I tried, I saw her handwriting in my head. That elegant, familiar scrawl, now forever poisoned. But still, I didn't confront her. Instead, I set the bait. The next morning, I made her coffee. I acted normal. I told her I had a work project due and I'd be working from the home office all day. Then I planted a small piece of paper, one of the letters I'd already copied, near the vanity, just barely visible behind the drawer. I wanted to see what she'd do. Sure enough, around 2 p.m. I heard her walk upstairs. About 5 minutes later, the door creaked open. She peeked into my office. Hey babe, did you go through my dressing table? I looked up slowly. No, why? She hesitated. Nothing, just thought something was missing. She smiled. Lied to my face. That was the moment I knew. There was no coming back from this. She didn't even flinch. Her whole body was relaxed. She was a professional at this now. That night, I called my old college buddy who's now a divorce attorney. Told him I needed a discreet consultation. He told me to gather financial records, identify shared assets, and most importantly, stay calm. Don't tip your hand until you're ready, he said. I followed his advice. But it was like walking through my life wearing someone else's skin. Every dinner felt like a performance. Every bedtime story to my kids felt like a countdown. And Elena? She was practically glowing. She kept humming around the house. Humming. Like she was in love. Like she was in love with someone, not me. And maybe I could have handled it differently. Maybe I should have screamed, thrown things, begged for answers. But I didn't. I gave her space to hang herself with the rope she didn't even know I handed her. Then yesterday happened. She came home a little too cheerful. Kicked her shoes off, tossed her bag on the couch, and said, James is moving away. For good. My heart stopped. She froze the second she realized what she said. Her eyes darted to me like a deer in headlights. I raised an eyebrow. James? She stuttered. Oh, just someone from work. He's moving. Anyway, not important. I just nodded. But inside everything was unraveling. So here I am now. It's 2:16 a.m. I'm sitting in my garage, typing this on my phone while the whole house sleeps. I'm looking at a plastic bin full of letters that shredded everything I thought I knew about the woman I married. About us. I haven't told anyone. Not yet. Not my sister. Not even my best friend. I just keep replaying it all over and over, every birthday, every inside joke, every night we lay in bed whispering about our dreams. And now I wonder, was any of it real? I have 2 kids who think their mom is the sun. I have a mortgage and a golden retriever who curls up at her feet like she's an angel. But I also have proof that she's been living a double life. That she's been kissing another man with the same lips she uses to tell me goodnight. I know I have to make a move soon. I just don't know if I should confront her with what I know or walk into a lawyer's office and let her find out when the papers arrive. What would you do? You ever picture a moment 1,000 times in your head? All the words you'd say, the righteous anger, the calm dismantling of their lies? None of that happened. What did happen was messier, uglier, more human than I wanted it to be. It was a Thursday night. The kids were at my parents' place for the weekend. A rare little break we'd planned weeks ago, back when I still believed I had a marriage worth saving. Funny how that works. I told Elena we needed to talk. Just that. No big tone, no threats. She gave me a wary look like she knew something was coming. I think, deep down, she'd been waiting for this shoe to drop. We sat in the kitchen. I slid the manila envelope onto the table between us. She looked at it like it was a live grenade. What's this? She asked. I think you know. She didn't open it. Didn't even touch it. Just stared at the envelope. Then at me. And in that moment, I swear I saw her entire body deflate. Like the lie had finally run out of air. Her first words? Not, I'm sorry. Not, it's not what you think. Not even denial. She said, I didn't want you to find out like this. That was it. That was her grand opening line after 11 years of marriage. I lost it. Not screaming. Not breaking things. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because that sentence, that bullshit self-pitying line, was so absurd it was the only thing my body could do. I didn't want you to find out, I repeated. So the plan was what? Keep him and hope I died in my sleep. Elijah, she started, using my name like it meant something, like it still held weight. I cut her off. How long? She didn't answer. Elena. How long? She swallowed hard. It started just before our 10th anniversary. I didn't mean for it to. He was just there. And I felt lost. Our 10th anniversary. We had gone to a cabin in the woods. I'd written her a letter about how proud I was of our life, of us. She cried when I read it out loud by the fire. Now I know why. Not out of love. Out of guilt. I sat there, numb, as she started pouring out this tangled, half-baked explanation. How she felt neglected. How she missed feeling desired. How she thought I'd stopped seeing her. I became a mom, a wife, a manager, but not Elena anymore. James made me feel like me again. I remember staring at her while she said that and thinking, I would have done anything to make you feel whole if you just told me. But she didn't. She chose someone else. Chose him again and again and again. Over me. Over our kids. When I asked who he was really, she told me he used to be her ex. From college. They reconnected at a conference. I guess it was fate. Or whatever word cheaters like to use to romanticize betrayal. Then she tried to do what I wasn't expecting. She flipped it. She started crying. Like ugly, hiccuping sobs. Talking about how ashamed she was. How scared she'd been every day that I'd find out. How guilty she felt every time she looked at our daughter. She said she loved me. Still. I love you, Elijah. I do. I was just so lonely. That word. Lonely. God, it pissed me off. I wanted to scream. Do you know how lonely it is to be married to someone who's not really there? To kiss a ghost goodnight every damn day? But instead, I asked the one question that's haunted me since I found those letters. Were you ever going to tell me? She hesitated. Then whispered. No. Honesty. At last. Brutal. But real. We sat in silence after that. Her face in her hands. Mine stone cold. I didn't comfort her. I didn't reach across the table. That part of me, the husband, was gone. Eventually, she said, Do you want a divorce? And for the first time in days, I didn't hesitate. Yes, I said. She nodded. Wiped her face with her sleeve. Do the kids know? No, I said. And we're going to keep it that way. For now. I told her I'd be staying in the guest room. That I'd talk to the lawyer. That I'd handle the paperwork. She didn't argue. Just sat there, crying into a silence that I no longer felt responsible for filling. That night, I lay awake thinking about every time I believed her when she said she was tired, or working late, or out with friends. I thought about how many times I kissed her on the forehead while she was probably texting him. And I cried, quietly, so she wouldn't hear. The morning after the confrontation felt like waking up inside someone else's life. I came downstairs to make coffee like I always do, same mug, same worn tile under my feet, but everything felt hollow. Like the soul had been vacuumed out of the house overnight. Elena didn't come down. I could hear her pacing upstairs. Doors opening and closing. At one point I thought I heard her crying again, but I didn't check. I couldn't. That kitchen, man, it used to be where we danced barefoot on Sunday mornings. Where we kissed over pancake batter. Where we made decisions about schools and vacations and paint colors. And now? It was just a room full of reminders. I sat at the table staring at the letter I'd printed out the night before, one of the worst ones. The one where she wrote to James about how she wished she could just disappear into his world, leave the guilt behind. She even joked about telling me she was going to a writing retreat next spring when really she planned to spend the weekend with him in Asheville. She was planning a future with this man. While sharing a bed with me. While kissing our kids goodnight. Later that afternoon, our daughter, Ava, walked into the kitchen, rubbing her eyes. Why was Mommy crying in the bathroom? I froze. She climbed into my lap and rested her head on my chest. She smelled like oatmeal and apple shampoo and innocence. I felt my throat close up. What the hell do you say to that? She just had a hard day, baby. Ava nodded like that made sense. Like sometimes people just cry and it doesn't mean the ground underneath them is splitting open. I held her tighter than I probably should have. She didn't complain. She just whispered, "Are we still going to the zoo on Saturday?" And I wanted to say yes. I wanted to promise her that everything would stay exactly the same, that Mommy and Daddy would still smile and take pictures and argue about whether to get cotton candy or churros. But I couldn't lie. Not anymore. "We'll see, okay?" I whispered. That night, I told Elena we needed to figure out a plan for the kids. She sat across from me, red-eyed and quiet, and just nodded. "I want shared custody," I told her. "We're going to do this civilly. They don't deserve any more damage." She nodded again. "Of course." I asked if she was still seeing him. She shook her head. "He's leaving the state. He got a job in Denver. I haven't spoken to him since you found the letters." I didn't believe her. Not really. I think she wanted me to believe it, like that would clean the slate somehow. But some part of me knew that even if James was out of the picture, the betrayal wasn't. That was hers alone. I moved into the guest room that night. It's cold in there, the window sticks and the curtains don't close all the way. There's this weird draft that creeps in around midnight and makes the room smell like dust. I lie there at night, staring at the ceiling fan, wondering how the hell my life got here. She keeps her distance now. She's quiet around the kids, overly sweet, like she's performing. I catch her watching me sometimes when she thinks I'm not looking, like she's trying to measure if she's shattered something completely or if there's still a sliver of glass left to glue back together. There's not. This week I've started boxing up the garage, old stuff we won't need to divide. I made an appointment with the divorce attorney. I haven't told my parents yet. I'm waiting for the paperwork to be drawn up first. My friends still don't know. I think I'm ashamed. Not just that she cheated, but that I didn't see it. That I stayed soft while she turned into someone else. That I let her convince me for months that the distance was just stress, just routine. It wasn't stress. It was another man's hands. Another man's voice in her ear. Another man's shadow in my goddamn house. And the craziest part? Some nights I still miss her. Not this version of her, not the liar. But the woman I thought she was. The woman I built a life around. That's the part no one tells you about betrayal, that grief and anger live side by side. That you can hate someone and still ache for them. It's strange how betrayal doesn't come in one clean cut, it comes in waves. Like every time you think you've reached the shore, something drags you back under. A week after we agreed to divorce, Elena started acting different. She cooked dinner 3 nights in a row. Real meals like she used to, lasagna with homemade sauce, rosemary chicken, the banana bread my mom used to bake. She wore makeup again. She laughed at my jokes like they were brand new. She started sitting next to me on the couch after the kids went to bed. Close enough to touch, but not quite touching. At first, I said nothing. I was numb. But I could feel her trying to rewind the tape. Like if she played her part well enough, I'd forget what I saw. On Friday, after we put the kids down, she followed me into the guest room. "Elijah," she said, her voice soft, rehearsed. "Do you ever think we could get past this?" I didn't respond. I just looked at her, really looked. She was in one of my old t-shirts. No makeup this time. Eyes tired but hopeful. She stepped closer. "I want to fix this. I want our family. I want you." I said nothing. She tried again. "We could do counseling. Or take a trip. Just the 2 of us. Reset." And I almost cracked. Because part of me wanted to believe it. Part of me missed the way she fit into my life like air. But then I remembered the letters. The hotel receipts. The line she wrote, "He doesn't know me like you do, but somehow he sees me better." I looked her in the eye and said, "You don't want me, Elena. You want a clean conscience." She stepped back like I slapped her. "That's not fair," she whispered. "Neither was cheating on me for a year and writing love letters like you were in some goddamn Nicholas Sparks fantasy." Her face crumpled. "I made a mistake." "No. You made dozens of choices. And you buried the truth under our roof like it wouldn't rot." She sat on the edge of the bed and put her face in her hands. I stood by the door like a ghost. "Elijah, what if we're still meant to be?" I wanted to scream. Because meant to be doesn't involve lies. It doesn't involve another man touching the mother of your children while you're making dentist appointments and school lunches and stupid Target runs together. I told her I'd already met with the lawyer. That the papers would be filed next week. That I'd be moving out in 2 weeks once I found a rental close enough for shared custody. She looked up. "So that's it? That's it?" She stood and crossed the room, not to me but to the dresser. Opened the top drawer. Pulled out a small velvet box. "I bought this for our anniversary," she said, cracking it open. Inside was a slim gold bracelet engraved with our wedding date and the kids' initials. "I was going to surprise you." I nodded. "You did. Just not the way you planned." She didn't cry then. Not visibly. She just sat down, back against the wall, and stared at the carpet like it might explain how she got here. I left her there. Quiet. Small. I went to the kitchen, sat in the dark, and stared at nothing for almost an hour. The next morning, I woke up to find a long note on the kitchen table. I won't write the whole thing here, but it started with, "I never stopped loving you. I just stopped loving myself." And I get it. I really do. But you don't get to set fire to someone's life and then hand them a poem in the ashes. That afternoon, I found an apartment 5 minutes from the kids' school. 2 bedrooms. Small, but clean. I signed the lease the next day. When I told Elena, she nodded like she expected it. That night, she didn't try to sit beside me. Didn't make dinner. She started packing a box of her books instead. And that's when it really hit. Not in anger. Not even in heartbreak. But in that weird, quiet grief, the kind that creeps in when you're folding your old life into cardboard. Our daughter asked if we were moving. I said yes. She asked if mommy was moving too. I said no. She asked if we were still a family. I told her always. Because we are. Just a different kind now. And I meant it. For the kids, I'll always show up. But for her? I'm done.